Hello there, this is Critical from Critical Media, just taking a look at the 2024 release of Star Wars by Kieron Gillen, Greg Pak, Salvador Larroca, Phil Noto, and Angel Inzueta. There are other creatives, of course, on the book as well, but what we usually do at this channel is give you an idea of what to expect if you ever come across these books in the wild. So we go over the exterior, some bonus material, art and plot points, and then a brief review at the end. Now this book, I have to admit, it's been long overdue. I felt like it's almost 2 years overdue, but nonetheless, I'm just glad that it's here. And this book, yes, it is basically Star Wars Volume 2. It is a follow-up to Jason Aaron's run, so it still exists between the Episode 4, Episode 5, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back era. And after all, there's 3 years to play with, so might as well make the most of it. And I have to admit, it's been such a strong effort by Marvel. I was so worried when they took over from Dark Horse that they might, whiff it with the comics, but they've been incredibly strong series. There's a few misses here and there, but the main Star Wars line and the Vader series, super strong. I've loved them both. But nonetheless, at least looking at the exterior here, yes, they did go with the Phil Noto one. The direct market and this one, I was kind of on the fence with both, and I realized none of them really blow me out of the water, so I kind of just settled with the Phil Noto one here. But yeah, it has that movie poster placard kind of design to it. But at least on the spine, they did try to differentiate it again from the Legends and even the original release by just making the second one this white text with the blue border. For some reason, it's very appealing. I don't know what to say about it other than that. And just a little image here from the exterior. Yeah, just of course highlighting the Empire Ascendant. Basically the conclusion of this era, the A New Hope to Empire. But at least underneath the dust jacket, we do get a somewhat of a wraparound image. Actually, I shouldn't say somewhat. It is. It's basically Luke, and you almost get this intriguing little reference, not necessarily the Tauntaun, but pretty much an awesome reference to basically Empire Strikes Back. I believe this could have been from the Jedha arc. Forgive me, memory's not really kicking it there. But in terms of bonus material, at least I have to admit, they did include the Empire Ascendant, which I do consider somewhat bonus material, but they did include these awesome afterwards, kind of serve like, of course, what's the word? They kind of serve as interviews, so to speak. So yeah, you get one from Kieron, you get one from Noto, basically all the creatives. But I have to admit, this time around when it came to the, variant covers, I wasn't really blown away. There's really only one. It's probably from Bill Sienkiewicz. Go figure. But yeah, you're just getting pretty much par for the course ones right here. Terry Dodson, really good. Pepe Larraz, really awesome on the X-Men run, but nothing to blow the waters out here. But yeah, pretty par for the course. But yes, there it is. Bill Sienkiewicz, baby. Man, this guy there's always something about every time he tackles any sort of imagery. It's always on point. He's a true graphic artist. But yeah, you're just getting a lot of just the typical, the action figure designs that they were releasing around that time. Yeah, those covers, I guess they are kind of kitschy for folks who are into that. Quite a lot of them, as you can see. But that's what I mean by none of them really blow you out of the water, outside of the Bill Sienkiewicz one, in my opinion, at least. Now, at least for art and plot points, you know what? The way Marvel has been mapping these, they've always been quite interesting, just even with the Legends run as well. But you can kind of see how the book is kind of separated here, so it's pretty decent. It does start off with the Cullen Bunn, but it's a lot of Kieron Gillen, a lot of Greg Pak, and just the Empire Ascendant story that kind of just wraps things up. Pretty intriguing nonetheless. But in terms of, yes, what's poppin', it's really just, the ongoing narrative, the ongoing adventures in general. But there are pretty seismic storylines that do occur in between. So, yeah, this one here, just that little tie-in to The Last Jedi. If you ever wondered how did they discover that planet Crate or why the base was already there when they landed in that film, yeah, this is basically the story of how they discovered Crate and just that quick adventure on that planet. And this issue, it really does have some really striking art. You can see it here. Pretty awesome kinetics and pretty convincing, to be honest. And it's an awesome narrative because this story, it bigs up one of my favorite Star Wars characters, Wedge Antilles. And this image, this page in general, if you ever read Rogue Squadron, they nailed Wedge and Rogue Squadron, or as they're called in this, at least, Red Squadron. But yeah, the way he is in this and the way he is in Rogue Squadron by Mike Stackpole, absolutely nailed it with this characterization. Loved it every little second of the way. But then, yes, there's that awesome storyline where they return to Jeddah. And I always love that effect because, you know, if you've watched Rogue One, that planet got pretty heavily wrecked, but it still somewhat exists, as you can kind of see. It's a very intriguing little storyline here, even with a reference to those changelings from Attack of the Clones. Pretty awesome that they even did that. But at least moving forward from it, there is a certain storyline in this that's probably one of my favorite things ever. Yes, here it is. Hope dies. One of the best storylines ever. It does kind of require you to read the Darth Vader series by Kieron Gillen just to be introduced to the character of Shu-Torun, or should I say the planet of Shu-Torun, and Princess Trios, or Queen Trios as she is now. Yeah, there she is there. Very intriguing narrative. But if you ever wondered, hey, the Rebel fleet, where they get all those ships, what do they do with all those awesome ships from Mon Cala? This is basically the reason why you realize they don't actually have all the ships. One of the best It's a Trap moments where, yeah, they're celebrating. They're really going to put the fight to the Empire, but guess who shows up? Literally as they assemble their fleet. This storyline, it's awesome. You'd think it's full of hope and all that jazz, but man, it really does live up to its name. You get awesome artwork in here, a lot of referencing to Rogue Squadron, awesome space battle moments, pretty vengeful kind of let's say political intrigue going on. It's funny because I felt like this story already nailed what something they did in Crimson Reign. This story already kind of fulfilled it, but it's super awesome. It has that sense of, huge desperation. It answers a lot of questions like, who do you think is the better pilot, Han or Darth Vader? You'd be surprised who ultimately looks a lot better by the end of it. But man, the story just continues to deliver, I tell you. Because yeah, this menacing threat of Vader, something I felt was kind of missing for quite some time. It really does return in full force here, pun fully intended. Man, I love this particular set of panels. I've always kind of hated this guy ever since Rogue One, so I'm kind of glad of how that scene plays out, but you're kind of seeing what I mean. That awesome referencing, awesome space battle logic. And what Marvel allows folks to do is they employ this Guru FX color artist. And it allows them to take like the life imagery of, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and of course Harrison Ford, and really utilize their facial expressions pretty awesomely. And the same thing goes for the ship design. Pretty impressive nonetheless. But yeah, probably one of my favorite storylines, hands down, in this entire Marvel Star Wars. And yeah, it does bring up these other intriguing stories where, they're on another planet, they're hiding out. Probably one of my favorite little images or covers, I think it's just around here. It's like a reference, to American Gothic, that awesome painting. Pretty much, I love how it's Han and Leia of all people. But yes, nonetheless, you get a lot of, expanded world building without breaking the Star Wars narrative. I loved it. They even set up several, as you read this Omni, you see several love interests pop up for Luke, even starting with Tula here. But I love this particular storyline, just reminding you that lightsabers aren't really the best weapons you can have in the Star Wars universe sometimes. There are other options, let's just put it that way. Of course, the very annoying and very pestering Scar Squadron. I swear, I'm trying to remember, there's another Star Wars team like this where they're hyped up way more than they actually are. Oh yeah, the Knights of Ren. Basically, these characters are hyped up to be these ultra, badass characters, but I tell you, in almost every encounter they face the Star Wars heroes, they always get handled. I tell you. But another intriguing story, very much related to that original one I mentioned, Hope Dies, the Scourging of Shu-Torun. Again, that character, Queen Trios, she's almost set up as like this antithesis to Leia, or maybe an idea of what could have happened to Leia if, the Empire really went after her, the way they went after Queen Trios here. But a very intriguing story because you actually see the other side of the Rebel Alliance. Sure, they're on somewhat of a mission of revenge for what happened in that earlier storyline, but, also a little moment of, peace and whatnot, bringing peace and order and, I guess, a little bit of honor to the galaxy. Yes, they have to slap in benthic in almost everything ever since Rogue One. You can kind of tell when they made this, it's made after certain films. So, yeah, you could definitely tell, like, the Disney influence, even the creation of that character, Myorti, who was like a canceled character in the Disney trilogy, makes an appearance here. Very intriguing nonetheless, but very awesome that the way this particular story plays out. If you ever liked that character, Queen Trios, I'll say this, very, very dynamic, very unique. Ever since you were introduced to her in the first Darth Vader series here. But super awesome to even gander at, that's for sure. But I guess another little storyline. This is when, of course, Phil Noto jumps in. You can definitely tell with the artwork here. Another unique idea. I think this is that whole storyline with, was it K-43? That's the name of the planet. These rock people, so to speak. But another idea of if you ever wondered a battle between Chewbacca versus Vader, again, you'd be very much well surprised. This, again, is a nice, awesome reference to a Dark Horse book that did the same thing, and it's interesting how much the fight plays out in a very similar way. You can read it for yourself, but it's surprisingly awesome, and this awesome referencing. That's another thing about the writers of this series, Greg Pak and I guess predominantly Kieron Gillen. They reference so much from the films in general, but also even Dark Horse related material. Like there's a moment where Vader's watching a pod race, and you can almost see what's going on in his mind. This awesome scene between Vader and C-3PO being reunited, and this, this awesome little hinting at things, but never fully committing to telling him the whole truth. Always appreciate that. But yeah, very strong overall major release. But like I mentioned, it does kind of end with this epilogue of Empire Ascendant, which basically bridges the, I guess, the A New Hope era just right up to the month or months just before the Battle of Hoth. So yeah, they're basically building of course, their base on Echo Base, on Hoth, sorry. And it's a nice revisiting of these two awesome characters, Shara Bey and Kes Dameron. Yes, Poe Dameron's parents right here. They were introduced in another series, but I love the fact that they reference them here, and it's a nice setup for what's to come. And it kind of does close out some storylines that kind of were left open-ended from Jason Aaron's run, so I definitely appreciate that. The way this came out, very on point. Oh yeah, nice to see Valance Baylard there. Nice. That's an old school Marvel character for some of you folks. But yes, honestly, it's another banger. If you have the 2015 run, this does seem like a must. I feel like everybody should have these Star Wars runs by Marvel because they've been doing such great work. A few misses, maybe that Dr. Aphra Volume 2 run, but otherwise, Star Wars by Marvel has been pretty damn awesome. I've mentioned it before where if it wasn't for the Dark Horse runs from the 90s, I never would have even been reading any sort of comic books up until I really got into comics in like college. But anywho, I'm just glad to see another strong release here, and hopefully you guys get a chance to maybe come across this one. It's a recommend from me, but admittedly, I'm biased. I can't deny it. I'm a Star Wars enthusiast these days, so can't help but love it. But I wouldn't mind seeing your comments down below, as always. Y'all folks take care and enjoy the rest of your day.